In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to dominate Shopify SEO in 2026. And this is the exact process that we've used to generate millions of dollars in incremental additional organic revenue for our e-commerce clients. So this isn't going to be some basic Shopify SEO video. I'm going to be showing you exactly how to transform your Shopify store from a site where Google is kind of just guessing about what you sell and what you do to telling Google exactly what you sell and which pages are the most important. So this video is going to be an exact step-by-step process you need to follow so you never have to watch another video on Shopify SEO again. All right, let's get into it. Let's get some prerequisites out of the way just to make sure this is actually worth doing for you. The first thing I always like to tell people is you really should be doing at least 100K per month before you start thinking about investing in SEO. Obviously, you want to get your fundamentals right. So when you're ready, it's a lot easier to hit the ground running. And so really steps 1 and steps 2 are going to be for you if you are under 100K per month. And then the rest of the steps that we go through are going to be if you're over 100K per month. If you're kind of in this spot, you don't necessarily have perfect product market fit. Your conversion rates aren't going to be perfectly optimized, right? And so while you're under 100K per month, the one thing you should be doing is just like put more money into ads and put more money into email, right? You're going to get a lot better bang for your buck focusing on those two aspects. And then once you're past that 100K per month, then it makes sense to start actually investing in SEO, looking to professionals to help you out. A good rule of thumb here is that for every 1,000 visitors that go to your site, you should be making $2,000, right? So this is going to be something around a 2% conversion rate and about a $100 average order value. And, it could be any combination of that. It could be a 1% conversion rate and $200 average order value. But the point is, if you're not making $2,000 for every 1,000 visitors that you get to your website, SEO probably doesn't make sense to invest in because you're not going to get a return. The last thing to keep in mind here is this: understand that the only way to make money in e-commerce SEO is getting bottom of funnel pages to rank well onto the first, second, third position. And so that's where you want to be spending most of your focus. If you're thinking you need a bunch of blog posts, sorry to burst your bubble, but that's not what we do here. You really want to focus on bottom of funnel pages that actually drive revenue for you. Now, moving on here, here's the first critical step that most Shopify stores completely miss, and it could be costing you thousands in organic revenue monthly. And that is setting, and this is step 1 and 2 that everyone should be doing. You should figure out how to do this on your own, even if you're not above that 100K per month mark, and that is schema markup. I've audited probably 100 or more stores at this point, and I don't think a single one has had really good schema markup. Every Shopify theme pretty much comes with some schema out of the box, but it's always missing important ones. When we're talking product pages, like we're most often missing, reviews, whether it's in stock availability is what it's called. And then like links to images, image links, and then having the full product description in the schema. These are just things I commonly see missing. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. And then when we're looking at collection pages, the big things you want to look out for that I almost never see is you want to list, it's called item list. You want to make sure every product in the collection is listed within the schema. And then within that, you have all of this included in that item list. Other important ones are like FAQ, anywhere you have FAQs on your site. And we'll get into that with collection pages. So collection pages should have a FAQ as well. Blog posting about us. There's a few other less important ones that you still want because you want to, what schema markup is just this like structured piece of JSON, right? That lives on your site on every single page. And rather than relying on the crawl bots to crawl the page and understand what everything is about, you just give it packaged nicely in this JSON for it, and it doesn't have to figure it out on its own. So, like any algorithm, Google search is just an algorithm. And with any algorithm, the better data you feed it, the better output you get or better results you get. And so you're just feeding it really clean data, and the crawlers appreciate that. Not only that, for AI, their crawlers can't render JavaScript. And so if your site, uses JavaScript to render images and text and have all this functionality that looks great to humans, an AI crawler probably just can't understand it very well because it's missing all these pieces of data that aren't being rendered when the crawler lands on it. And so it's really important for showing up in AI because otherwise it just doesn't understand, those AI crawlers just don't understand your site because you're not giving it the data, and it doesn't even have the data to make the guess for you, right? So So that's step one. This is really important, and everyone should be doing it. If you don't, at the very minimum, get a Shopify app that does this for you. We do this custom for every client that we have, and we don't rely on those apps because they very often just don't have the right types of schema. You want to add as much schema as you can so that you're giving those crawlers as much data as you possibly can. So now that you've got the schema locked down, the other foundation part and another critical error that I often see is that websites just have pretty much zero internal linking structure. And so this is another thing that we do right away for all our clients is we overhaul all the copy on the collection pages to create this internal linking structure between collection pages so that Google knows which pages are important on your site. So with the schema, you're telling it what the pages are about. And then with internal linking, it's which ones are important. And so this is something that we do right away for everyone. One good way to think about this is that you can think of internal linking as links casting votes on your website as to which pages are the most important, right? So you can imagine, let's say you have one main collection page up here and a couple sub collection pages here. If there's no internal linking between them, there's just this big question mark about within this like content cluster, topic cluster, like who knows what's the most important page? Google doesn't know. But if you then create these internal links for one, like between each page, between each sub collection page, so that Google knows those are related and they are of equal importance. They're all linking to each other. But most importantly, that the first link on each one of these pages points to the main collection page that they are like categorized under, right? These are sub collection pages pointing to the main collection page. By the way, if you want help implementing this framework I'm sharing with this video, you can click the first link in the description to book a free consultation where we're going to troubleshoot whatever issues you're running into and figure out if we can help you skyrocket your organic revenue. You can even have some blogs within the same topic down here that you, again, link between each other, and then you can link again to this main collection page, and you can even link some to the sub collection pages. One thing I want to point out here though is one super important rule is you don't want to link like from a collection page to a blog post, because then you're essentially telling Google, like you're using that collection page to cast a vote telling Google that we want that blog post, which frankly, we really don't care how the blog posts rank because they don't drive revenue. I mean, there's obviously some nuance there, but you don't want to pass SEO authority from a collection page to a blog post simply because these don't make money. And so the way you do this, by the way, is within the collection pages. Of course, most sites I audit have some internal linking from blog posts to product pages, for example, but maybe one or two sites out of like 100 have had internal linking on collection pages. And so what this looks like at a really high level is you have your H1, you have a little bit of text describing the collection right below it, not too much because you don't want to push the product grid down, right? Then you have your product grid, and then below that you have some more text. And this kind of ties back into the FAQ thing here. What you want to do is structure this in a way like this, where you have some H3s and H2s talking about main selling features of whatever the collection's about. And then within this text, you can have some internal links pointing to other related collection pages. But most importantly, when it comes to this, one, you want, I would say, minimum of 3 internal links all the way up to like 6 or 7 internal links minimum. It's a lot more than you think. And you want to be linking, again, the first link has to be pointing to the main collection page. If it is the main collection page, then they can just point to the sub collection pages. But every sub collection page needs to point, the first links needs to point to the main collection page. And so 3 to 6 internal links. The other super important thing to point out here is that there's no AI slop allowed here. Do not just plug the name of the collection into ChatGPT and ask it to spit out a collection for a few reasons. One, everyone's doing that right now. And so all the content's the same, and you're never going to have a chance to stand out and actually rank by having the practically exact same collection description as everyone else. Now, that does not mean don't use AI to write this. You should, because that's how you do this in bulk and do this quickly and effectively. But what you need to do is, one, you need to feed it obviously like some brand guidelines so it speaks like you, but don't stop there. What you need to do is take your main keywords that you're targeting, your primaries and your secondaries, which by the way, I didn't mention this, but this is going to be your primary keyword. This is going to be your secondary keyword. And then these are also going to be, the H3s are also going to be secondary keywords. Plug those keywords into a tool like Also Asked, or just Google them and figure out what FAQs people have about these within the people also ask. You want to take these questions along with your brand guidelines and feed that into ChatGPT. And I have a full video, by the way, of how to do this in bulk. So you can watch that one. But take this people also ask data, take your brand guidelines, and then have it write this. Because now this content is not only talking about the products, but it's also answering questions people commonly have about it. And you're going to stand out in the eyes of Google because you're actually adding value. You're not just creating SEO fluff, AI slop, whatever you want to call it on your collection pages. All right. So that is the internal linking. And so the next thing that we should get into here is just this next step is kind of where most e-commerce brands waste months of effort targeting the wrong keywords entirely. I'm going to go through how I think about what keywords to target when you're building out content on your site. And when I say content, I don't mean blogs. I mean bottom of funnel content. Because again, that's what we want to rank and that's what's going to make you money. And so it's a real quick, just to give you a visual framework of how to think about this. For every brand has like one main key, wildly important keyword that they want to rank first for, right? If you're selling running watches, you want to rank for the keyword running watch, right? So that would be what I call the wildly important keyword, or the WIC for short. And so once you know what your WIC is, once you know what that wildly important keyword is, you then want to think about, okay, obviously this is going to be this is a really competitive keyword, tons of search volume. You need a pretty high domain authority to even have a chance at ranking for it. So if you're like Garmin, sure, go for it. You'll have a good chance at it. But if you're a new up and coming running watch company, it's going to be really tough to rank for this. So kind of the framework that we use in not just this, but everything that we do is obviously we want to rank for this main keyword, and that's the long-term goal, but we set short-term goals along the way. And there's a few, that pattern will show up a few more times. But in this case, what it means is finding long tail versions of running watch and building collection pages around the long tail versions of that. And so just as a quick visual, what this looks like is you have your main WIC in the center here, and then all these blue circles are going to be sub collection pages, running watches for men, for women, running watches for marathon, for triathlon, for ultra marathon, hiking watches, whatever, right? There's a million different variations you could come up with here. And you want to build collection pages targeting those terms, which by the way means putting those terms in the H1 over here. Then through internal linking, kind of like how I showed the other drawing that I did, you want to internally link between these pages. And then again, most importantly, the first link on all these pages points to this main collection page. And so the reason this is so powerful is you can do this over and over again and just kind of end up casting this super wide net across Google, right? Targeting all these different super important keywords, having all the sub collection pages covering every possible way people are searching for that important keyword. And then a layer I didn't even draw here is blog content that again, you can use internal linking to support those sub collection pages and support the main collection page. And so that's kind of the idea of everything that we do with how we think about picking keywords. But there's a few criteria for like how I think about what is a WIC and what is a sub collection page. And so for a wildly important keyword, if you're a running watch brand, there's probably more than one WIC, or if you're a company that sells a bunch of different things, you could have more than one WIC. Maybe you only have one, but that's unlikely. And so the way I define a wildly important keyword is one, if you were to rank first for it, would drive a meaningful amount of revenue. And this means different things for different brands, right? If you're Garmin, a meaningful amount of revenue might be, I don't know, an extra $100,000 per month. And if you're starting out, it could just be an extra $1,000 a month, right? And the way you predict this is just take the search volume, multiply it by your average order value and your conversion rate. And that's going to get you like how much revenue you could reasonably get from a keyword. Again, I have another video going over how to like project this out and do this site wide for your entire site. So you check that video out as well. And the second big requirement is that it has to be a transactional search, SERP rather. Search engine results page. And for a WIC, really what I look for is 10 out of the top 10, maybe 9, depending on the niche, is either a collection page or a product page. And also we see a product grid. You can use like SEMrush's transactional commercial keyword filters, but always double check it. It's not always accurate. So if you're doing this in bulk, use that and then manually double check it before you actually build a collection page targeting it. And this kind of ties into number 1, but this is a combination of domain authority, backlink gap between the number 1 ranking page or the top 3 ranking pages and what you have pointing to your page. And so you just don't want to waste time trying to rank for a keyword that's going to be literally impossible. Like, and again, this kind of ties into the second one here. If it's like a bunch of .gov and edu pages on the front, or it's completely dominated by Reddit for some reason, you're just probably not going to rank for it. Don't even bother. Requirements for the sub collection pages are kind of the same for the Wix, but main difference being the transactional SERP. I usually look for at least 5 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is great. Obviously 10 out of 10 is better, but you can be a little bit more lenient with this if some blogs show up. If some blogs show up, that's fine. You can still go for it. If there's no product grid, that's fine. Sometimes that's even better because then your listing's not getting pushed down by the product grid. And then these are, of course, the same. You can reasonably rank for it. This is almost, that's not really an issue for these sub collection pages because you can almost always rank for it. And then meaningful amount of revenue. The only difference here is meaningful amount of revenue in aggregate. So like the total search volume between all of the sub collection pages is roughly equal to the amount of traffic or search volume that the main keyword has, right? So if the main keyword here has 10K searches per month, the sub collection pages should have, there's 6 of them here, so I don't know, 1.8K per month each, something like that. So in aggregate, it adds up to the same amount of search volume, and then your average order value and your conversion rate don't change. So it's going to drive a meaningful amount of revenue in that way. These are, of course, very general rules. I can't give you specific rules because I don't know who you are. But if you follow these with keeping in mind your product category and then all the different variations, one way to quickly spin up sub collection pages, right? If you're selling running watches, you can just do all the colors, do all the different features, heart rate monitors or GPS, whatever, all the different features, and just append those to the main keyword and come up with some longer tail versions of it. And so that's one way to quickly do that. Once you have a long list of collection or keywords rather, then I wouldn't just start building right away. You can do this in bulk, of course, but you're probably going to come up with a pretty big list of keywords if you do this right. And then from there, you have to prioritize. And so one way to quickly prioritize what keywords you want to go after first, here's an example of one that we set up for a client, is you just look at this number here is just kind of a long equation of, you can ask ChatGPT to build an equation like this for you. That's what I did. Weighting these 3 columns. So search volume, difficulty score, and search intent. So the SERP, whether it's transactional or informational or commercial, and then weights them all. And you can see higher numbers here are going to be keywords that have like good search volume and are relatively easy to rank for. And so we know that would be a good keyword to target in comparison. And also it's is a transactional keyword. And in comparison, you can see like this keyword has less search volume, is a lot harder to rank for, and is just informational. And commercial is why you have to manually check when you're using SEMrush metrics like this. Commercial doesn't always mean it's a transactional SERP. Transactional has a much higher correlation to an actual transactional SERP. And so it's weighting commercial a little bit less. And so it's less volume, a lot harder to rank for. And so the score is a lot lower, right? And so that's just one way to do it. I mean, you could do it by average order value and like do it that way, what has the highest potential revenue. But you need to make sure that you're prioritizing and ranking keywords that are actually going to move the needle for you. You want to concentrate on, just use the 80-20 rule here, concentrate on the 20% of keywords that are going to drive 80% of the revenue or have 80% of the revenue potential. And another thing to point out here, again, and this kind of ties into the transactional SERP requirement here. When you're just starting out, don't bother with blog posts, really. Like, get these collection pages done first before you start building out blog posts. That's the other way you can prioritize these. Not much writing there for that one, but we're going with it. All right, so now you have your keywords. You've prioritized them. You know which ones you're going to build out first. Now you have to build these out. You can do this one by one, but it's going to be a lot of keywords, as you'll probably find out. And so I do have a video showing how I use AI to do this. I'm always kind of iterating on that, so it's a little out of date, but it's a good starting point if you want to get into it yourself. But really what you need to do is set up a just Google sheet with the keyword in it, and then somehow you can either paste your like brand info in the Google sheet as well as the people also ask data. But what I do is have the Google sheet there with the keyword, and then right now I'm using N8N to like create these prompts. I kind of have a prompt template that I use that's like, it says here's the page, insert the page keyword, and then gives all the instructions with the client brand information and writing guides. By the way, we set up for every single client that we have, unless you bring your own, but most people don't have that. So we build it out for them, and we have a prompt that we use to generate this, generate all the internal links. Again, I'll link that video in the description. I'm not going to go through it through the whole process here, but essentially have a Google Sheet with the information, use an automating tool like N8N to talk to ChatGPT, or Claude's actually a little bit better for copywriting, and then have that spit out the answers back into the same Google Sheet here, and then use Matrixify to bulk upload it to Shopify. That's just the best app to use. And it's cheap. It's like $20 a month. And so that is everything traditional SEO related. Now, this last step here, step 7 or 6 rather, is optimizing for AI search results. Now, the reason this is last is because ChatGPT is of course growing, but if you go look in your Google Analytics, I can almost guarantee it's going to be like less than 1% of your total traffic, unless you're some weird outlier. So it's not really worth putting too much stock into it, especially if you don't have all this set up. If you don't have all of this set up already, don't even worry about getting ranked in AI for a couple reasons. One, it's not a huge portion of your traffic, but also trying to decide what color to use here. This whole process is the biggest thing you can do to get mentioned in AI. Like just having your fundamentals down is going to help so much. You're going to rank better. Your site data is going to be structured so AI can understand your website and understand what you sell. Your internal links are going to tell it which pages are actually important. But this is the biggest thing you can do. Of course, this is a growing field and it still matters and you want to be ahead of it. Steps 1 through 5 is how you get ahead of it now. And then there's a few extra things you can do here. One, you can look into Reddit, and there's a few strategies here. You can either, generate your own engagement, make posts on Reddit to relevant subreddits and make comments and interact with people commenting on your posts, of course, in a non-promotional way. Another way to use Reddit is to kind of like hijack Reddit posts that rank well for important keywords for you on Google already. Just go in there and mention your brand with a kind of an anonymous account, again, in a non-promotional way. That's kind of the key here. Reddit hates promotional people. So that's one option, and 2 ways to do that. The other way to do this is, another option here is with your blogs. You want to start writing blogs that answer questions people commonly bring to ChatGPT. And so that's like best X for Y, X versus Y brand, etc. I mean, there's a bunch of different things you can think of and different ways, things people ask ChatGPT, and you can write about that. That's one way to do it. Lastly, one thing I've been experimenting with lately is creating like AI information pages, which is literally just a page on your website. So one example here that I can show you is from this SaaS brand called Winter. You can see they have this Hey AI Learn About Us page, and you just give all the information about your brand. I see a lot of SaaS businesses doing this, but it's kind of like I don't see many e-com brands doing it. So this is another way. One, to potentially get mentioned more often. 2, just control the narrative about how people talk about you, or how AI talks about your brand. And you just give it all the, like, give it your main products, best reviews. Make sure you talk about your brand the way that you want your brand to be talked about, because AI is just going to mirror exactly what's on that page when it does pick it up. And so brand voice, like just give it some brand voice, and you can kind of get creative with this. You can kind of inject some prompts if you want to. I haven't even tried that, but I'm just thinking about it now. But basically just give all the information about your brand, your products, create direct links to collection pages and important products. And one thing to mention, this should be pure, like just basic HTML page. Don't have any JavaScript rendering anything. Don't have any interactive stuff. Don't even have images on here. Just good old HTML CSS page, just to make it as simple as possible for the AI to crawl it. I mean, and there's a bunch of other things. No one really has the answer for getting mentioned on AI because it's so new. But what I can tell you is that these 4 things work. This, of course, is the main thing. Like, don't worry about any of that until you got the foundations done. It's not worth it. You're going to be like, imagine you're selling your products on your Shopify store, and your Shopify store is doing 200K per month. And you also happen to sell some products on Etsy as well, and your Etsy is doing $20 a month. You're not going to pay someone to, or even spend your own time optimizing Etsy. Like, you're going to focus on this one way before you focus on this. And that's kind of what AI is right now. Of course, it is a longer term brand play. And so you can kind of create over time, create an organic moat around your niche by doing some of these. But again, not until you have the basics. So look, the information in this video genuinely has the power to transform your Shopify store's organic revenue. So I hope you watched all the way through, took notes, got massive value from it. And at this point, you kind of have two options. You can try and implement all this yourself, spending the time, the money, the headache of figuring all this out step by step, and all the problems you'll 100% face if you're doing this for the first time, or get help from experts who've added millions of dollars in additional organic revenue for brands, help stores rank #1 on Google in just 6 weeks, and have the proven search to sales framework that shows results in as little as just a few weeks, not the traditional SEO takes 6 months excuse. And if we're being honest, if you're not already dominating organically, then you 100% need help. And that's why I want you to click the first link in the description to book a free consultation with me. This is for you if you want to avoid doing all this yourself and you want a team of experts implementing our proven framework while you're focused on running the other aspects of your business. So if that's you, click the link, book your call, and I'll speak to you soon. Make sure you like this video so you can easily find it again. Subscribe to the channel for more Shopify SEO strategies, and I'll see you in the next video.